For the past few episodes, I've been speaking with Amir and Kerry Kaligi and Speedweed about the power of embodiment practices. And in those episodes, and many others, I've mentioned my dear friends Bo and Elizabeth, who introduced me to these extraordinary people. And today, you get to meet Elizabeth Jurgensen. Over the years, she and I have had the most deep, rich, beautiful conversations about life and relationships. She just helps me understand myself and the world better. She's always one of my first calls when I'm grappling with something. And several years ago, I had a life changing conversation with her about what the cycles of the moon can teach us about time and energy and productivity and self love. Her interpretation of the teaching had a profound impact on me. So I invited Elizabeth to share her perspective with participants of our 60-day reset. And her teaching resonated so deeply with the women in our community that I'm still getting emails about how it's reverberating and affecting their lives years later. So I had to ask Elizabeth on the podcast to share it with you. Elizabeth is one of the smartest people I know, and she has a depth of experience in a lot of different arenas. Her post college years were focused on the performing arts, working as an actress and a dancer. And then she transitioned to the corporate world, earning a business degree and working in finance. She was also an amazing fitness instructor and wellness coach. And then later in life, she realized she had a passion for academia. So dove into advanced study and worked as a university teacher and writer. But in midlife, she had a really serious car accident with a long rehab period and she wasn't able to work. And that was very confronting for her. And it was inside this space that she discovered the power of embodiment work to explore trauma and relational dynamics and studied to become a somatic educator, integrating insights from ancient archetypes, women's wisdom traditions, and the interplay of masculine and feminine energies, and her world opened in the most exquisite ways. Oh, I am so excited for you to hear what she has to say. So let's get the skinny from Elizabeth Jurgensen. Oh, Elizabeth, I am so excited to have this conversation with you about the moon and what she has taught you and what you're learning as an older woman. Shall we
Hmm.
start with the prayer that you like to share?
I would love to start with the
Oh,
prayer.
yeah.
And the first thing I want to say is this is a Native American teaching, and there's different versions of it, depending on the place in the country that you're in. But the gist of it is that Grandmother Moon teaches us quality of life.
Yes.
Because when she's empty, she fills. And when she's full, she empties. And within that quality, that paradigm is the concept of enough, that we have enough and that we will always have enough. And that's what actually creates quality of life, that way of being content and with also trusting that we will wax, we will wane, we will be full, we will be at the dark times, but the cycle is never ending. We don't have to worry that we will get stuck in a particular place. And what I find so comforting is when I go outside at night and I just look at the moon, it reminds me it's constantly moving. It's constantly changing. It's a little bit different every single night. And that reminds me nothing stays the same. So I don't have to get all twisted about where I am right now. And ask yourself, when we think about quality, do we ever look at the moon and say, oh, she's not so beautiful tonight?
Yes.
And
Oh,
I think that was one of the biggest lessons I took away from the moon teaching, because in our culture, we focus on the bigness and the brightness, what I would call the fullness of the moon. But I know I never go out at night and say, oh, it's only a crescent moon. She's not enough. I've never in my life said that. I've always said she's beautiful right where she is.
Yes.
And that's about the contentment and about the trust. And I guess what I'll just start with is as you know, the last, what would I say, decade plus of my life has really been a challenge. And that's why this teaching has kind of helped anchor me, because I had to completely reorient my relationship to time, my relationship to success, my relationship to achievement, all of that within the last decade. And that coincided with going through menopause. And I didn't have a lot of psychospiritual support, within that. But I did have this teaching. I did have this particular teaching that I got from a friend of mine who is very grounded in Native American teaching and spiritual understandings. And it's something that I would just say I hold on to because it creates trust for me. It creates trust because no matter what phase of the moon is happening at the moment, it's going to change. So I'm not stuck. It's always going to be beautiful right where I am, even if it feels hard. And I will always get another chance.
Oh, that's an important thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because we tend to get in our culture, we tend to get really caught up in, I have to do the thing now, or I have to achieve the thing soon because I'm not going to get another chance. But if you think about it, the moon goes through a full cycle every 29 and a half days. And so in every 29 and a half days, she is big and bright and beautiful and just full, 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 full. And it comes around every single month.
As it does for women, whether you're menstruating or
Yes.
not.
Yes, we know that in our bodies. We have a just an automatic connection to that cyclical nature. And so I'll just back up a minute for everybody listening. And you, Tess, I just want to acknowledge what a beautiful presence in my life you have been, and a support as I've gone through this. But I had just started, this was back in 2013, I had just finished an advanced degree. I had gotten a job in the field that I was so excited about in academia. I had research that I was doing. I had a book that I was going to publish. I was teaching at a university that I loved. This whole new career was opening up, and it felt like this is the career I've been meant to have my whole life.
Yes.
And I was already 50. I'd had actually several careers before, but this was the one that felt the most like me, the most like this is where I belong. And then I was in a car accident. And it was a really bad car accident. Did a lot of physical damage. And the reckoning that I had to go through with that car accident is what brought me to this teaching and has completely reoriented my way of looking at who am I now at this phase in my life.
Yeah, I remember the accident. I remember how happy you were in that teaching job, because you are a born teacher and you're still teaching, and you will always be teaching as you are now. And that was a huge trauma, a huge loss, a huge moment of grief for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was it in you that allowed this teaching in when it was presented to you? Because that was a choice. It was a choice to let it in. It was a choice to embrace this perspective and this way of moving through this new chapter. You could have stayed in another place of grief and denial and anger and all the things, but you chose to really step into this. So, can you pinpoint that moment where it just really resonated for you when this was presented to you?
Well, I've known this teaching for a long time, actually. It's But yeah, there was actually a very specific moment with another woman. I want to say it was maybe, it might have even been 3 or 4 years after the accident, because I did continue teaching. I did continue working for a couple more years, and my body just couldn't do it. It just couldn't do it. I was in too much pain, and I knew that I couldn't be the teacher, the academic, the writer that I really wanted to be, and that I needed to step back and just literally take care of my health and take care of my body. And I remember I was sitting with a woman who actually is much younger than me. She would be now, she's at least a couple decades younger than me, but she was visiting my husband and I at our home, and she herself was really struggling. She had just let go of a business that she had started in a really good way. She had sold it to someone that she felt good about it, but she was sitting there going, I don't know what's next. What do I do now? And she was in this real anxiety about not knowing what was next and what should she be and what should she do. And I just remember, you know how sometimes we just get downloads from the universe. I don't know where they come from, but I was just sitting there and I actually said this to her. I said, you are me. You are a younger me. And I said, let's just really sit quietly with this for a minute and take a look at why we get so anxious when we're in between, when we don't have a project, when we're not achieving, and particularly when there's an unknown, when we don't know what's next.
And you know I'm terrible with that too.
Yes, you and I have done the same thing where we've sat and you've just been like, Elizabeth, I don't know, what am I doing? Or you've said, I want more, I want more, I want more of
Gosh,
what's
see, the
here.
concept of enough, when you were saying that before, I was having a visceral reaction to that, going, oh gosh, that's a daily, hourly, by second practice for me.
And so I in that moment, sitting there, what I realized, I don't even know why this teaching popped into my head, but I realized we were both sitting in the dark of the moon.
Yes.
We were both sitting in the dark time when you can't see
we're
the
not
moon.
Comfortable in.
Right. We know she's there, but we can't see her. And we live in a culture, we live in a postmodern capitalistic culture that worships achievement, money, fame. Why do so many teenagers want to grow up to be an influencer? You know, that's the epitome of the culture that we live in. And she and I were really at the effect of that. I'm nothing if I'm not doing something, and even worse, I don't even have a plan for what I'm going to be doing, you know? And what we realized in that moment, both of us, was we actually got a real insight into who we were as people. And what I noticed was that if I allow myself to sit in that dark phase, the dark of the moon phase, I am not a person that creates out of nothing. Like there are plenty of people that are just bursting with ideas that they can just, you know, something is born out of whole cloth. That's not me. I tend to be somebody who looks around and then chooses something that I'm going to follow. And what I realized is that's what the dark time of the moon is for.
Yes.
And if I sit in anxiety and I'm sitting there beating myself up that I don't know what I'm doing, like I was sitting there going, when is my body going to heal? When am I going to feel better? When am I going to be able to get back to the career that I lost? You know, when, instead of taking it as an opportunity to just be sort of like, let me just rest here and take a look around. And what she and I both realized is because we are people that are really good at noticing what would be a really great something for us to hitch our wagon to. And when I had that insight, I thought, oh, then I'm a person that really needs this dark time. I need this slow time. I need this rest time. Because here's another thing that I saw about myself through listening to her was that once I do decide this is the thing that I'm going for, I go all the way. I'm going to go back to school and get the degree. Or the certification. I'm going to get really well trained and well versed in it. And I'm going to find a job, or I'm going to create a job that just really gets in there and makes a huge career or success out of it. And I do that with projects too, even personal projects. But it takes me a little while to find the thing. And I realized I can't be discerning about that unless I give myself that grace of sitting in the quiet, sitting in the dark, and just looking around.
And that is challenging. I know for somebody like me, and you and I have spoken about this, that I see the dark moon as nothingness, as
Yes.
as emptiness, as failure, as
Yes.
inaction. I mean, you know, there's all these things that I attach to that place, and I want to exile that place. So
Because it's uncomfortable.
it's so uncomfortable, because you're right. We have this desire to be seen, to be successful, to be doing something. So what would you say to someone listening right now who's going, yep, that's me. I feel that way too.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you consciously remind yourself of the value of the dark moon phase?
Well, it helps me when I remind myself that the moon is still there. I just can't see her. It's the only reason I can't see her is because of the way she's orbiting, around the earth at the moment. She's just in shadow. It's not that she's gone. And that's the myth that we have told ourselves, is because that we can't see her, that she must be gone. It's a void. And so
that she's never coming back.
Right.
The opportunity's
Right.
never coming back.
Right.
The person's never coming back. The
Right.
love,
Right.
the connection, the
Right.
story.
Or I'm never, or, like in my fallow time when I was healing my body and dealing with all the aftermath of this horrible car accident and trying to figure out, where do I go from here in the new body that I have? I have a menopausal body that has now been injured in a way that's left me with some minor disabilities. And things were shifting in my marriage, and we had moved a couple of years before. And there were just so many things that just kind of needed to settle. And I wasn't allowing things to just settle. And that's what the dark of the moon is for. Let it just settle. Just rest. Rest is medicine. And again, that's another thing in our culture. Rest is seen as a waste of time. We brag about how, yes, there's a bazillion articles all the time about how to get more sleep, how to get better sleep. But really, we're proud of how little sleep we get in Western culture.
And it's not seen as a proactive activity.
Yes, exactly.
It's seen as kind of a means to an end.
It is. I need to get rested so that I can go out in the world and be a super achiever and do all the things. And by the way, what I'm talking about, this focus on achievement and constant motion and fame and all the things that go into it, it's called internalized capitalism. We've taken an outward system and we've internalized it to the degree that we think this is who I am and this is the way I'm supposed to be. When this is actually a culture that has been taught to us. And there's an agenda behind this culture because, of course, the harder we work, the more we produce for the people who make all the money and own all the businesses and, all of that. And even if you're a business owner yourself, as you are, as I was at one time, there's still that hustle mindset of, I can't stop for a moment. I cannot stop for a moment or I'm going to slide backwards.
So what do you do in those moments where you catch yourself in that net of internalized capitalism. As a somatic practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
someone who is constantly reminding yourself to be in your body, in experience, what can you give us to remind ourselves, oh, it's okay to enjoy the dark
Yeah.
moon, the
Yeah.
rest?
Well, the first thing I do is I usually have to giggle at myself a little bit because I'm able now in a way that I wasn't in the past to recognize, oh, that's the narrative that's running.
Yes.
I'm at the effect of internalized capitalism right now. And so I can have a little laugh at myself, which actually right there, that softens it a little bit.
Yes.
And a practice that I really love is just sitting, closing my eyes, and just saying to my or asking my body, what are you feeling right now? What are the sensations right now that are going on? Is there like a tight stomach, or is my throat feeling constricted, or is there a swirly feeling in my solar plexus? Are my legs feeling jittery in some way? Just noticing what is showing up in my actual physical body, because that energy is a manifestation of my thoughts and feelings, and just allowing that to be there and just breathing with it and being able to say, oh yeah, there's that weird swirl I get right in my solar plexus. And if I put my hand there and I just breathe into it and just allow it, because like you said, the dark time or the fallow time, when we're in between or we don't know what's going to happen next, or we're trying to figure out where we should go, we see that as a void and we see it as passive, but it's actually got its own energy.
And it's an engine.
It is.
It has that quality if you allow yourself to see
Yes.
it that way.
And that will show up in your body if you pay attention. You will feel whatever energy is moving around in your body, even when you are feeling at that effect of, anxiety is going to show up in your body. Anxiety, fear, concern, all of that, it is going to show up in your body. Most people say you have things like my throat feels tight, my stomach feels upset, but sometimes it's even really subtle. Sometimes it's like I was saying, like I notice I do a lot of like clenching and unclenching my hands when I'm anxious.
Yep.
And I never noticed that until I started really paying attention to
I
my
stopped
body.
breathing. I stopped breathing.
Yeah, I do too. I'm a breath holder for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I've got to consciously remind myself, breathe, take a breath.
Yeah.
Breath.
Yeah.
I just stopped breathing.
Yeah. And I find that just acknowledging and allowing whatever I'm feeling in my body, also just noticing what's the quality of my mind right now. Is it racing? Do I feel kind of numb and foggy? Are my thoughts, bzzz, or are they roaring and rushing like a stream? Like even that, and it kind of gets me out of my head, because I'm now paying attention to what's the quality of my mind, not the particular thoughts, but what's the quality, what's the tone of them, what's the texture. Same
And
thing.
just a gentle noticing, not a
yes,
judgment.
just a gentle, just noticing and an allowing and an acknowledging. That's the beautiful work you can do during the dark time, because it's also cleansing. It's also a way to go, what has been going on with me? Because I know if I've been really, really busy, I can get disconnected from my body, my thoughts, my feelings. And it's only in the quieter time, in the dark time, in the fallow time, that I have the space to really pay attention
and to
what
recharge.
Yes.
Because otherwise you burst. And you really taught me that through our conversations about this in the past.
Yes.
But I am an introvert that presents as an extrovert. I don't recharge from other people. I recharge on my own.
Yeah. And I'm
so
exactly the same.
Yeah. That dark moon is my recharging, my refueling, my regrouping, my catching up time.
Yes, catching up. I love that. It's also a catching up. It's a catching up with yourself.
Yes. And thank
And
you for helping me see that in my life, because I wasn't valuing
Mhm.
that was time well spent.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't either. And it's so ironic because I was forced to be in a very prolonged, like years long, dark time like
10
that
years.
yeah,
Yeah.
almost 10 years of healing my body, um, you know, trying to figure out just my limits physically. And, you know, I would do something and then I'd have a setback. I won't go into all that, but just it was a very prolonged dark time. And then put menopause on top of that. And the craziness of today I feel this way. Tomorrow I feel this way. My hormones are all over the place. I can't sleep. I feel like a 13-year-old with my emotions. It just felt, and in fact, now that I look back on it, I'm actually so grateful that I was able to recognize, oh, I'm in a dark time, because there was actually a lot happening. It just wasn't happening in what we value, which is the outside world, outside achievement. And what I was able to see with sitting with this woman who was basically completely me, 20 years, but just 20 years younger, was that we cannot find our next thing unless we go through that dark time. There
Yes.
has to be a pause, especially for someone like me that needs that chance to kind of, you know, scan the field and see what would be really great to do next, knowing that I'm going to go all in on it. And I did make some mistakes during that time. To the degree I was able, I did take on some small volunteer opportunities. I ended up being the chairperson of an organization, and I did them because I felt like I should. Like I should be doing something. It's not enough to just be home and be quiet and letting my body heal and just sort of scanning the horizon for what might pop up that might look interesting next. I felt like, no, I need to get out there and create and do at least a little something. And I ended up joining organizations that they were fine, but they weren't deeply aligned.
I remember, and
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
when you gave yourself permission to exit that. I really
Yes.
I really loved what you were saying a moment ago about it being a pause.
Yes, it's a pause, a sacred pause,
Mm,
a sacred pause. And there's medicine in that
mm,
quiet space. There's
yes.
deep medicine. And we as a culture have really stepped away from that. We give lip service to rest, but it's exactly what you said a minute ago, for the end result of then going out there and, you know, becoming full again.
Being stronger and even better than you were
Yes,
yesterday, and being able to
yes.
do even more and expanding your capacity to the point that everyone would just be amazed at how much you could achieve.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. It's like the rest is only to be even bigger and better when you reemerge from the dark of the moon. And so if you think about it, that's not how the moon works. She comes out of the dark and she's just a little sliver. She
Yeah.
doesn't burst out of the dark and is immediately full and bright.
Mm.
She very gradually emerges from that fallow, what we would call a fallow resting phase. And it's a very gradual but steady. And that's one of the things I love about the teaching, is it really taught me to value the steadiness and the discipline of taking your time getting to whatever the thing is that you hope will be full and bright.
Oh, I love the word discipline within the
Mm-hmm.
context of this conversation, because life is a practice and a discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. And you notice how the moon, she's just a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter each night, but it's gradual and she doesn't rush. And like I was saying, I'm not walking out there going, oh, she's not big enough yet. I think she's beautiful in every phase.
Yes.
Absolutely every phase. And so this, what we call the waxing phase, this deliberate, disciplined, slow growth, what I saw about that, because especially now as I reflect back, and even in this conversation with you, I'm reminded of how just even my recovery, my physical recovery from that car accident, it's been a slow, steady, disciplined. I had to do all the things, physical therapy, and I had to do some somatic therapy around the trauma, the emotional trauma from the accident. I had to do a lot of practices to stay steadily on the path to recovery. And it was very slow and very deliberate. And it was a discipline that I had to give myself over to.
Yes, I love what you're saying about this. What's coming up for me as I'm listening to you about this phase, this gradual, slow and steady, it's a really beautiful phase and invitation to check in with your capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also a chance to check in with, do I need to reorient? Do
Yeah.
I need to perhaps change a little bit in how I'm approaching this thing? If we go too fast, that's kind of what happened with me with, I wasn't working for several years while I was healing my body, but I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to be doing something because I don't have a purpose. I'm not useful. I'm not of value. So I joined all these volunteer organizations and chaired one of them. And sure enough, I made mistakes because I rushed in and said, oh, I'll do that, or I'll do that, or I'll take that position. And I couldn't always come through as my best self because it's still in a certain, my physical capacity wasn't always there. Or I didn't take the time to really suss out in one instance who were the people that I was really going to be working with. And it turned out okay in the end, but it wasn't the full experience that I would have really enjoyed because I didn't take my time.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing as I'm listening to you is we're going to make mistakes
Of course
regardless
we
of
are.
which phase
Of
we're
course
in,
we are.
what speed we're going at, how many skills we have, and that's how we learn and grow. But what I love about this teaching and being in this slow and steady phase is that you allow yourself time to keep catching up with yourself, to keep scanning, to keep
Mm.
readjusting, to keep reorienting. And you have that time to keep deciding if you want to keep staying in this
Yes,
commitment.
exactly. And that's really key. In the context of the moon, of course, she's going to be full at a certain point. But in the context of our life, not everything is meant to come to fruition.
Oh gosh, that's an really important point because we expect that it's supposed to, or we
Yes,
believe that's that internalized capitalism
yes,
again, that
yes.
if you study, then it must be because you're going to do a career with it, or you're going to make money
Right,
from it, or
right.
it can't just be for the pure enjoyment of the discipline of learning and the fulfillment of learning and growing and being in the process of study. It has
Yes,
to be
exactly.
for something else.
Exactly. Exactly. And it became very clear to me at a certain point, and I think you and I even had a talk about this, that even though I really had respect, like for the organizations that I was volunteering for. It wasn't that I was just grasping at anything. I mean, I did do some due diligence, but my fear of being nothing because I
Mm.
wasn't working and I wasn't producing, I, I just took what was in front of me without a lot of discernment. And then once I was in, I didn't feel like, ooh, I should back out because now I've committed. Where if I'd gone a little bit slower or maybe just done one at a time, and
Yeah.
see, let me volunteer for like 6 months with an organization. Let's just even feel how it feels to be a volunteer. But no, I took on like 5 organizations.
I remember. I remember. But the discernment piece that you're bringing up is so key. And you helped me see this, that you can have more discernment at
Mhm.
the slow and steady pace.
You can, because you're gonna have a chance, because of the slow and steady pace. It gives you a chance to, like you said, assess as you go, reset as you go, and it gives you a chance to back out if you need to, because you
And that it's
haven't.
okay to back out.
Yes. Because, like I said, not everything is going to turn into the full moon. Or the other thing that I really learned is we tend to, in our capitalistic way of thinking, that there's only one version of what full is.
Oh, that's an important point.
But
Gosh.
there may be many versions of what full actually is. And what I've really been seeing, particularly in the last few years, is that I may start that waxing journey toward a particular something that I'm interested in or that I hope to achieve, but it may change along the way. But if I go too fast, I won't notice that there's an opportunity for change, and it doesn't give me the chance to say, I think I'm going to change my version. I think I'm going to tweak. And I'm going to go toward this version of fullness rather than the one that I started out with.
Mm.
And a perfect example of that is when I did go back to school. I went back to school in my 40s for an advanced degree, and it started to get a degree to teach high school. I was going to get the state certification to teach high school. So I had to get a degree. I had to get another bachelor's, because the 2 bachelors I had before didn't really count for teaching subject matter in high school. So I started that. I found a great program, started the program, and I would say maybe a semester or 2 in. And this is the beauty of taking classes, is you're kind of forced to go slow and steady, because you have to take the class, you have to do the class, you have to finish the class before you can go on to the next one. So it does give you some time. It's a nice pacing. It gives you some time to assess how you're doing. And I remember I had 2 professors tell me, you shouldn't be teaching high school. And I was devastated, because I had been substitute teaching in high school for a few years and I loved it. I was like, this is what I meant to do. Yay, I found my thing. And they said, no, you should consider getting a master's degree and you should teach at the college level. They said, they both told me, we think you'll burn out at the high school level, that you'll feel there's a freedom in teaching at the college level that you don't have in K through 12. And they said, we think you would really thrive there. What do you think? And I thought, wow. But I never would have noticed that coming my way if I was only focused on, this is what my fullness is going to look like. It's getting the bachelor's and the high school teaching degree. But because I was kind of going slowly and steadily, and I had remained really open to my professors and my colleagues who were also in school and just taking feedback, I was really assessing as I was going. I was really able to hear that. And I switched course and entered the master's program. And I did end up teaching at the college level. And they were right. I loved it. It felt more like me than teaching at the high school level. So that's a beautiful example of when we just slow and steady, disciplined, and be open to perhaps changing course a little bit along the way, what could happen when we reach the full phase.
Yeah. And what's coming up for me as I'm talking to you is we're able to dwell in possibility, to be
Yeah.
open to all possibilities.
Yeah.
And, you know, you and I have spoken about this before, but my natural default position is to be tied to one outcome and one outcome only, like you were talking about.
Right. And
And
that's something that capitalism teaches
yes,
us. This is this, or maybe there's more than one, but there's a very limited range of acceptable outcomes that are allowed.
yes, yes.
And so you have to pick one of those.
And that also comes from our family of origin too.
Oh, sure.
That
Oh,
in our
sure.
family systems, there are a system of rules in every family, and that's how we're
Hmm.
conditioned to then play out that set of rules as
Right.
we
Right.
continue to grow and go out into the world. And then we have, you know, what you're explaining as internalized capitalism into the mix as well. And then the aperture continues to narrow unless we
Exactly.
consciously keep it open.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
And that's why I so love this idea of the moon just very slowly and steadily waxing a little bit at a time. So as human beings, that gives us that little bit of space to pause, to course correct, to reassess before we get in so deep that maybe we reach a fullness and we realize this isn't really what I wanted. That can happen too.
Yeah. Yes, and that has happened many times to me, as it
Yeah.
has to you. And dear
Yes.
listener, I'm sure you can relate to us.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about the full moon because
Mhm.
you really helped me shift my perspective, or as we've been saying, open up what my view of it is and what it can look like. Because I was only seeing it as full achievement, full joy,
Mhm.
and you helped me see, well, Tess, it can also be full pain, full drama, full
Yes. Yes.
explosiveness. And if you are, what does that feel like in your body? You said to me, and I'm going to burst. Yeah. And you will if you stay there, because my natural inclination is previously, until I had this initial conversation with you and started really diving into this, that I was only comfortable in full moon.
Yeah.
Full, full, full.
Yeah.
Achievement, achievement. Success, success. In the light, in the light. You know, and that's exhausting.
It is exhausting. And it also doesn't allow room for anything else. I remember a conversation you and I had where you were in so much distress because you just wanted more, 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 more. You were like, Elizabeth, I'm so full, but I want to stay here and I want more. And I said, and you will blow up because you can't fit anything more.
And I remember you said to me, so where's the room for the new then?
Exactly. Exactly.
And I went, oh, yeah.
If we stay at that peak fullness, how is there room for anything else? How is there room for change or growth, or if we're in a real, even if it's the most wonderful, high achieving, like where I was so happy. I'd gotten the job of my dreams. I'd completed my career. I had a book that I was working on, all these things going on. There wasn't room for anything more than that. And in some ways, that car accident, in taking all of that away from me, it created room for what the perspective that I have now. I never would have gotten this perspective if I had continued on that path. I never would have. It would have, and especially in academia where it's about continue to research, continue to publish, continue to, get a better job, get a better, higher teaching position. Your students should do better every semester. Again, more, 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 more. I would have just stayed on that track until I probably burst, that's what burnout really is to me, is it's a
Yeah.
bursting. It's a bursting. We are holding too much. We're too full.
Yeah. But what's the beauty of the full moon?
Well, the beauty is that we get a chance to shine our light on other people, for one thing. And that was something that came to me, going back to that conversation I was having with the woman who was younger than myself, when I shared my insight with her about that we were the kind of people that need this fallow time in order to discern what our next move was, because we were probably going to pick from something that was offered to us rather than generate it ourselves. So we had to be very discerning among the offerings. What were we going to take? When I shared that with her, she said, it makes me cry. She said, I want to just come sit at your feet and worship you as an elder, because that just completely changed her perspective of who she was as a person. And I just thought, oh, I have something to offer that isn't an achievement.
But it is.
But it's not the kind of achievement like, look how much money I make, or look at the job that I have, or look at the product that I created that everybody wants, or I'm the teacher that everybody wants to take the classes from. It was literally just something that I came to an insight about for myself and for her, and I found a way to share it in a way that she could understand it.
But to me, the way that you've taught me about this, that was you being in your full moon.
Yes. Yes.
And at the same time,
that's what I mean by shining my light on
space.
Somebody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a really important part of this conversation, is that we're not only just in one phase.
Exactly.
Just as we're cycling throughout the day of rest and activity and waxing and waning, likewise throughout the month in our own internal cycle. And then we are cycling through these various cycles, and it could all be in one day. We're not just sitting in the one phase. So these epiphanies that we have while we're sitting in this quietness, in the stillness, either with ourselves or in conversation and relationship with others, we then get these openings and these experiences within these other phases to remind us of our capacity to be all the things.
Exactly. And like I was saying earlier, the fullness can look so many different ways.
Yes.
It could be achieving a goal, or, such as getting the big job that we wanted, or making the amount of money that we wanted, or, buying the house that we wanted, or getting the relationship that we wanted. It could be something like that, something that we've been reaching for, something that we've been grasping for. It could also be internal work of, say you've been in therapy for a long time and you finally you have a breakthrough on something. That's a fullness. That's a fullness that serves you.
And we don't
and so it can look so many
as the fullness, do we?
No, we don't. Again, the internalized capitalism, right? Yeah. We look at only outside achievements, and especially achievements that can be noticed by other people. We are so hooked into, am I getting noticed by other people? Am I getting approbation and accolades from other people for what I've accomplished? Because what do we do when we see a full moon? Oh my God, she's so beautiful. She's so big. She's so bright. We praise her so highly when she's at her peak.
Yes, and it's on the news. Look at the full moon tonight. It's going to be smooth. Everybody's outside only looking at the full moon.
Right, exactly. Yes. And we name the full moons, the wolf moon, the super moon, the hunter's moon, but we don't name. Well, if you're in the world of astrology or astronomy, yes, there are definitely names for all of the different phases and all throughout the month. But as just a cultural public recognition of the full moon, it's only the full moon that is really recognized. And that's what sinks into our psyche. Oh, the full moon is the thing to be celebrated because that's what is paid attention to.
Oh gosh. And as you're saying this, what's coming up for me is, and then we wait we're
Yes,
waiting. It's almost like we are in a holding pattern until the next full moon,
exactly.
until the next
Exactly.
accolade, until the next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And going back to what you were saying about the dark of the moon, we see that as somehow a failure, a void, an emptiness. We see the loss of the fullness as, again, a failure, as a loss. There can be grief around that. Now, I also want to point out we were talking a little moment ago, you mentioned about that maybe the fullness of the moon is pain. Like there's something really painful that you're moving to and you're just in the thick of it. Now there's two ways to look at that. You could look at that as this is the dark of the moon, but you could also definitely look at it as this is the full moon, because the pain may be something coming to fruition that maybe you've ignored or has not been dealt with, or that you've been feeding in a really unhealthy way, and now it's showing up in its fullness. And so we also have to be willing to take a look. That brightness shining down on us can be the signal of, oh, this is what I've created. Is this really what I wanted? So I think that's important. And there's another piece to the full moon, and I have a personal story about this too. While it's wonderful to be in the full moon and feel like, oh, I've achieved and everybody's loving me and I'm the greatest ever. What's that saying that James Cameron said, I'm on top of the world, or I'm the best in the world,
I'm
something
the
like
king
that.
of the world.
The king of the world. Right. I'm the queen of the world. What can also come up during that phase is imposter syndrome.
Oh God.
That somehow
Yes.
we don't deserve to be here. So I really want to speak to that.
Yeah.
And I have a very vivid memory. This was back when I was in my 30s. I had a big fancy job in finance, and it was a great job, and I was really good at it, and I really loved it. And one year I got this giant award for performance. And it was the first year that my division for the company I work for had decided to give this particular award. And I found out later that it was my performance that made them want to create this award. So they based the parameters of how you get the award on my performance for subsequent years. So but thank God I didn't know that quite at the time. But I got the award because it was presented at a year-end conference where they showed the company numbers and, yeah, and yay, how great we are. And I get the award, and I was so surprised, but also really proud because I had worked really, really hard that year. I just put my head down and worked really hard. And so it felt so good to get the recognition. But I remember the next morning I woke up and I said to myself, oh my God, they're going to expect me to do this every year from now on. So that was the flip side of being in that fullness and getting all that recognition and deservedly kind of basking in it for a moment. But this inner critic came in that said, now you have to repeat it every single year. And of course, that's impossible.
Yeah. And another part of that is what's next?
Exactly.
Oh, so I got to the top of the mountain. Now what?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
well, where do I go now?
Right.
And
Right.
there can be a lot of anxiety
Right.
in that
Right. And
place.
yes. And I know that was also something for me, because as you know, I've had, several careers, about a decade each. And as each one was winding down, and they usually wound down either not through my choice because I lost the job, or circumstances, or just life changed and it just wasn't a fit anymore. But yes, that anxiety of what's next, and then going back to the dark of the moon, I just did not recognize that I was waning and heading into the dark but that was actually a very fruitful process. Because when we're kind of coming down off of that fullness, just like the coming into the fullness, the waxing gives us a chance to go slowly and to kind of reassess and maybe recalibrate as we go. The waning phases give us a chance to assess what we've just done or what we've just been through. Like for instance, if like we were talking about, maybe the fullness is a really painful something that, you know, an aha or a very painful situation or very painful episode, something like that. As it begins to soften and wind down, we now have a chance, because of the slowness and steadiness, the discipline there is to learn to let go, learn to sit with the feelings of letting go. Because often why we want to hang on to the fullness is we fear how it's going to feel when it's not full anymore.
Yeah.
It's not even, sometimes it's not even so much the loss of the thing that we achieved, the brightness, the fullness. It's what we're really afraid of is that we're going to feel bad once it's gone, and we don't want to feel those feelings. So we want to stay in the fullness as
Yeah.
a way to avoid getting to those feelings.
And as you were speaking, you were saying, you know, the gradual winding down. I was sitting going, no, it feels like a crash.
Mm-mm. But
It doesn't
is it
feel like that to
really?
me. So you talk to me about that, because that's what was coming up in my body as I was listening to you.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, when you've achieved, you've had the big night, or you've had the big wedding day, or you've had the big whatever it is. And then the adrenaline sort of leaves your body and you go, whoa, and you feel a bit woozy and lightheaded, and boom. It feels like you're in the abyss of the nothingness of, what do I do now? Oh God, it's over. I've lost it, or whatever it is. It feels, or it can feel like a crash. So help me find my way into the perspective that it's a winding down, and it is a gentleness, just like the ramping up from the dark to the full. That the ramping down from the full and then cycling into the invitation to rest and regenerate and regroup and catch up. Sit with the stillness and the quiet. That to remind, how can we remind ourselves that we are in a gradual transition?
Yeah. Well, what really helps me is first to acknowledge on a somatic level, there can be an actual crash, because like you just said, the adrenaline, the cortisol, of what, like, let's say it was a big event, like your wedding, or like
And the
you winning the award.
oxytocin.
Right. Exactly. The oxytocin, like, let's say it's the fruition of an amazing relationship, or you just went on an amazing vacation with your loved one. And it's just, oh my gosh, it's just the most amazing, loving, yummy, delicious time. And now you're home. And it does, and yeah, there's an actual physiological where all of the hormones and all of the chemicals in your body are readjusting to
I mean,
a
it
different
literally feels like you've
environment.
got the DTs,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you've been on a drug.
exactly.
Like
So
yeah.
you kind of have to just see. Here's the other thing: when we're in the fullness, we also want to. Because we don't want to feel the crash, we pretend like it's not going to happen.
Oh, that's such an important point. The denial and the exiling of those particular feelings and emotions.
And
I
so
exile things a lot.
we don't prepare. We don't prepare. We don't create a soft landing for ourselves after the fullness.
That's important. Yeah.
And
so how do we do that?
Well, again, one of the ways is what I just described. When you start to feel that letdown, is just acknowledging, what are you feeling in your body? What are the sensations? And just giving them room to just be. It's okay. It's normal and natural, especially as all the hormones and all the chemicals are readjusting themselves, and also allowing the feelings to be there, to acknowledge, I'm a little sad that it's over now. I'm really sad. That was so great. I'm even acknowledging I'm not really looking forward to the next phase.
Oh, yeah, because you can go into judgment, but because
Mhm.
you're having feelings that are uncomfortable or you perceive as negative, you're not allowed to have them, that somehow you're
Exactly.
ungrateful. The gratitude and those other feelings can
Right,
coexist together,
right, right.
and that there's
Especially if
power in harnessing them together.
exactly. And especially if the fullness was around like achieving something really important, or like I said, this beautiful vacation with a loved one, then to feel sad or perhaps even angry that it's over, that it can't continue. If we don't allow those feelings, they're going to get stuck in our bodies somehow. And they're going to
Mm.
make the transition to equanimity a lot harder, and they're going to make the letdown feel even worse. But you notice what our grandmother Moon does is she does it slowly. She wanes very slowly, a little bit at a time. And again, I don't go out at night and look at the moon and go, oh, she's waning. She's got a little sliver missing. I don't think of her as having something missing because she's getting smaller.
And again, that's our perception because of the way
Yeah,
that she's orbiting the Earth.
exactly.
But actually,
Exactly.
she's just as full as she always was, to your point
Exactly.
before,
She's
that
exactly the same
she's
size.
exactly the same size. I remember you and I barreling over laughing when you were
Yes.
sharing that with me. And it's such, as you were saying early on in our conversation, it's so important to remind yourself that it's exactly the same
Yeah.
size and
Yeah.
it's all the things. It's
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
orbit.
Right. And
Effect.
you're just seeing a different slice of her. That's all. And
Yeah.
that's just kind of even in, in our lives, as we move through our lives, anything that we're doing or witnessing at the moment, that's all we're seeing at that moment. It may not be the whole thing. It's just that little portion that we're seeing. And even the full moon, it looks full to us, but we're only seeing one side of her. She's a whole round sphere that we're
So
not seeing
true.
the other side.
That is so important to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so
Oh.
I'm so grateful for this test. Over the last few years, just having to sit with this idea of what does the moon mean to me? What is my relationship to time now that I'm not able to the
Mm.
degree that I was before to be out there, hustling? I just sometimes have to laugh at myself because it's like, Elizabeth, you're not seeing the whole picture. You're only take comfort in that in some ways. You can only see what you can see. And there's actually a lot that you can't see that's just waiting for you. And that's where the trust
Mhm.
comes in. So going into the waning phase, she's just very gently just peeling off layers and layers. And if we look at, like, let's say we achieved something big, or there was a big difficulty that we got through. That was the fullness. We got through a difficulty. But there's still a resonance there. It's not like it's completely over. Like when you go on a great vacation, for example, you still talk about it. You might talk about it for weeks afterwards. That's part of the waning. What you're doing in that phase is you're allowing yourself to integrate the experience, allowing it to really become part of you, to sink into your tissues, to sink into your psyche. And particularly if it was something difficult, this is the period of time that you can say, what did I learn from this? What am I taking away from this? How did this change me? How am I different now? How does this help me to walk forward in a different way than I used to? And you can't do that if you just jump from thing to thing to thing. If you're just always full and then jumping to the next full moon and then the next full moon, you never learn the lessons. You never really integrate what you've learned. That's why we make the same mistakes over and over a lot of the time.
And that's why people have heart attacks and strokes. I
Exactly.
mean, your body just
Exactly.
shuts you down if
Right.
you keep doing.
Right. That's why people burn out emotionally and mentally, is because they're just jumping from full moon to full moon to full moon, and they're never giving themselves a chance to gradually wind down. Like, even if you think about, like, let's say you're crying about something, like you're just sobbing over something. You don't just all of a sudden say, okay, I'm done. It's a very gradual crying, less and less and less, and softer and softer and softer, until finally, your body goes, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Or even if you've done something really hard physically, even if you collapse down on the ground, because let's say you've done a big hard run and you've run out of breath and now you have to stop and you just collapse on the ground, you aren't just immediately back to normal. You lay there and you breathe hard for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for your breath to come back to its normal rhythm. And it takes a while for your body to relax into its normal state. It isn't instant. And that's what the waning phase is for. It's to give you a time to process and to come back to the reset period gradually. Because if we did it too fast, we would blow out our nervous systems, first of all. And it gives us a chance to savor. If it was something wonderful that happened, if that fullness of the moon was something wonderful, it gives us a time to continue to remember and integrate and savor it, and just the deliciousness of the thing that happened. Where if we're looking for the next thing, we're not savoring. And that was a mistake I made for years, because I was just, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? I didn't even give myself credit for what I had just achieved.
Yeah.
I didn't even acknowledge what I had just been through. If it was something difficult, I was just like, nope, on to the next thing.
Yeah. This is so key, that the celebration doesn't just occur in the moment of the full.
Right.
But that
Right.
integration, that reflection, that remembering, that savoring is
Yeah.
still part of
Yes.
the lingering experience that then
Exactly.
continues and informs the next experience.
Exactly. Exactly. And particularly, it gives us a chance to, I love that word, lingering. What lingers with me is maybe something that I do want to take forward into whatever the next thing is that I pursue.
Yeah,
And
or an
we can only
opportunity
notice
to
what lingers if
redirect
we go
yourself, as you were
slow.
saying. Yes, yes.
We can't notice what's lingering if we're going too fast.
Yeah. I want to ask you about your perspective about holding the wanting more, because the desire for more is there and it will be there.
Yeah.
And you've really helped me see and hold my wanting more, not as a monster or a
Mm-hmm.
demon or something to exile, but something to befriend, and that I get to choose how I hold the wanting of the more.
Yeah.
Because I was viewing it as a defect, as as
Mm-hmm.
as a form of greed, that I always wanted more, and then I could never be satiated, by that achievement or that achievement. So can you share that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The wanting more, the word it brings up for me the most is yearning, which has how do I want to put it? It has a really sweet, it has a love in it. Like when you
Mm.
think about when you yearn for your lover, there's such a feeling of it's really hard to put into words, but that desire is what's drawing you forward. It's an energy drawing you forward or drawing you outward. I hesitate even to use the word forward because we have such a concept of time as always linear and always existing on the horizontal plane, when actually time exists on a vertical plane as well. We can go up and down within this particular moment. And so that yearning, that desire is what carries us. It's the magic carpet that we're flying on, but it doesn't mean that we can't enjoy the ride while we're on it.
Yeah, I do love that word yearning. Thank
Yeah.
you for that, because
Yeah.
it does have a yummy quality about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we didn't have that desire, if we didn't have that yearning, we would stay stuck a lot of the time. And that was something I really struggled with, going back to the dark side of the moon. I didn't see that actually I did have yearning and desire. I thought I was just nothing, that I was just like in a numb phase or something like that, when really there was yearning and desire bubbling underneath the surface. I just wasn't in touch with it because I didn't value that time period to let the desire and the yearning bubble. Kind of like lava deep down in the mountain, you've got to let that bubble and cook and create itself before it comes up and out. And I just didn't recognize that that's what was going on with me in the dark phase, and that I needed to rest and allow that to happen, because that actually takes a lot of energy. So I think what I had said to you was, could you allow what you're naming as greed, could you name it as desire and yearning, and let that carry you without expectation?
Yes, that is what you said. And it was so helpful, and it really shifted things for me. So thank you
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah.
And thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that with everyone. Oh gosh, Elizabeth, I could talk to you about this all day long. It's so nourishing. It's such a beautiful way to look at at life.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
it's
al-
it's it's been a gift for me, especially as I shift into my elder years, uh, because there is a sense of, on one level, of waning. There's still a lot of full moons to come, and as I was saying in the beginning, we can trust every month there's going to be a full moon. So I completely trust there's going to be many full moons that will show up in my life. But just within my lifespan, if you look at it, I'm heading more into the waning phase. And what I'm so grateful for, Tess, is to such a degree I've been able to, once I understood what internalized capitalism was, to be able to recognize that that was a false thing that was imposed on me, that way of being was taught to me, imposed on me, expected of me, and to be able to say, that's not really me. That's not really where I want to go. And particularly because I'm a person that has a gift of recognizing what is the valuable thing that I would like to pursue in front of me, with another person, on my own, whatever that looks like, giving myself that space and time to practice that discernment instead of just grabbing something for the sake of doing something. I'm so grateful to be in that place, because, as you know, the studying that I've been doing the last several years around somatic facilitation and embodiment work and all of that, I feel no need to hang out a shingle and say, I'm a somatic practitioner, come and pay me money, to work with me. To me, if that shows up organically, lovely, lovely, but I'm not going to push for it. I'm not going to push, because that's not honoring that slow and steady waxing, fullness, waning, dark time. It's pushing and forcing. And right now, the way I feel is it is a gift just to be a person who takes what they know and shares it with those they love.
Oh gosh. And hopefully we all can feel that way
One
because
of my greatest joys is just sitting and talking to you and sharing our insights with each other.
likewise, the laying it each opposing ends of not opposing the each end of the day bed or curling up on the couch or sitting opposite in the living room or all the spaces sitting outside near the fountain and all the places that we've had these beautiful nourishing conversations, and that is not only enough but it's everything. It's so
Yes,
beautiful. And
yes.
it has been such a source of nourishment in my life and will continue to be. So thank you so much for how you show up
Mhm.
in the world and how you're choosing to show up in the world. I always close every episode with the same question, and I'll ask it within the context of this conversation. When we don't feel like we have what it takes to make it happen, or that the moment isn't enough, what do you say to yourself?
Well, the first thing I say to myself, and that I would say to anyone else, including you, is drop into your body and notice what are the sensations in your body at this moment as you contemplate that question or as you contemplate that dream that you have. And just notice what is your body telling you through its sensations. And another thing I would say is just ask a lot of questions of yourself, starting with, if I have this dream and I'm feeling like I don't have what it takes, maybe asking, is this really my dream? Or was this a dream that was given to me by somebody else? Or is this a dream that I think I'm supposed to have? Or what other versions of this dream might be a possibility rather than just the one that I'm focusing on? There can be a lot of ease in recognizing that the dream may not even be yours in the first place. And in that case, you can just drop it and then you don't have to feel bad. Or that it's partly you, but partly something that was imposed on you, or that maybe you have a very, like we talked about, that we often define what is fullness. We have a narrow range of what do we define that as. So I think the questioning is a really important part of the process. And it's always been my experience that when I allow myself the space to ask those questions, that whatever needs to be learned, whatever the answer is, it just comes on its own. It's when we clamp down on this is what it must be and I must make it happen, and then get caught up in the anxiety of, but I don't have what it takes, and all of that. That's when we limit ourselves. It's in the questioning that we actually see. We have to ask the questions or we're not going to get an answer.
Yeah. Oh, I love you. I look forward to our next
I
conversation.
love you too, Tess. Thank you so much for inviting me. I too could just talk to you for hours. Maybe
Oh,
we'll have to do this again.
and we will do that. We certainly will.
mm, mm. It's truly been my pleasure.
Oh, so many takeaways. It was interesting what she was saying about internalized capitalism. Yeah, Western culture teaches us to go fast, get the quick fix, and abandon ourselves, that we're only acceptable when we're full, and that our slow or dark times are to be hidden and apologized for, that we're only useful when we shine our brightest and cast light for others to see by or bask in. And Grandmother Moon shows us a different relationship with time and energy and productivity and success. She shows us quality of life. When she's empty, she fills, and when she's full, she empties. Contentment and trust that there's always enough, that we have all that we need with what we can see. An appreciation for all phases of the journey, that we're enough in any phase. The moon is beautiful right where she is. And that the cycle is always in motion. The moon is constantly moving and changing and is a little bit different every night. That nothing stays the same. That the light will return, whether we can see it or not. And celebrating change, that it's natural and normal and necessary. That we'll never be stuck in the same place. That movement is energy, and without it we go stagnant and die. That this too shall pass, both the good and the bad. And being present and enjoying the beauty of the moment, meeting the moment and feasting at the banquet of possibilities. And that there's always another chance to shine brightly and be noticed, that things are going to come around and cycle again. And the lesson of patience, that the moon grows just a little bit at a time, but she never stops. So pacing ourselves, not rushing the process to reduce mistakes. And that dark moon phase, that there's deep medicine in that resting quiet space, that it may feel like a void or emptiness or being stuck, but there's energy and desire bubbling underneath the surface like lava deep down in the mountain. You've got to let that bubble and cook and create itself before it comes up and out. That the moon is the same shape in every phase. She's not gone, she's just in shadow. That resting place is a sacred pause. It's a time to gather and ground, catch up with yourself, regroup and recharge. Time to reflect, pay attention to what's going on. And that waxing phase teaches us discernment. We choose wisely when we do things gradually, that we can recognize problems and course correct if we need to, and gives us an opportunity to check in with our capacity to adjust and reorient. We're able to dwell in possibility and be open to all the different possibilities, not rushing towards one outcome and one outcome only. And that full moon phase, that brightness gives us clarity and achievement and recognition and euphoria, love, but it can also be grief, it can also be a huge breakthrough. It's amazing and it feels really gooey, or it can feel very traumatic, but we can't stay in that full or add more, or we're going to burst. If we stay full, we're choosing to stay the same. And that's choosing to become inert, that there's no room for growth or change or anything else. So with the waxing, we learn the value of slow transitions. Coming out of the highs can feel like a crash, but we can perceive it as a soft landing. We may view it as a loss, and if we do, we invite that unnecessary grief and suffering. That the gentle moving out of it gives us time to appreciate and celebrate our achievements, savoring the fruits of our labor. That if we jump to the next thing, we don't savor the deliciousness of life. Or if it's grief in the full moon, that slow opening and letting go gives us a chance to assess what we've been through and take stock of the lessons. Or giving ourselves credit, acknowledging the pain and the work and the growth that happens in the full moon, in the fullness of something. And with that slow transition, it gives us time to absorb and integrate. We can gradually prepare for the next phase. It's a gentle letting go. It doesn't have to be abrupt. So the celebration doesn't just occur in the fullness of the moment. The integration, the reflection, the remembering, the savoring is still part of the experience that informs the next choices. So what do we want to take forward into the next thing that we want to pursue? And we can only notice what lingers if we go slow. So if we jump from thing to thing, we don't integrate and don't fully take in the lessons. And then we can make the same mistakes over and over. And what Elizabeth was saying about honoring our internal cycles, that as women, we mirror the energy of the moon, whether we're currently menstruating or not. So just honoring what we need in each phase, and that we're never just in one phase. When she said, when we get those openings and those experiences within these other phases, it reminds us of our capacity that we're all the things and that we never see everything. When she pointed out that the moon is the same size at every phase, we're just seeing a different slice of her. That even in the full moon, we're only seeing one side. And so similarly in life, we're only seeing a portion of the story in any given moment. And there's a lot that we can't see that's waiting for us at another point in the cycle. Oh, that really resonated when she said that. And her perspective about wanting more has been so helpful for me, and I hope it was for you as well, that it's not something to exile or be ashamed of. It's a yearning. Oh, beautiful. A sweet energy that carries us. What did she say? It's a magic carpet that we're flying on, but it doesn't mean we can't enjoy the ride. And when you don't know what to do, ask yourself questions. Are you working with a narrow range of acceptable outcomes? Sitting in those questions, is it your dream or somebody else's? Are there other possibilities? And that somatic exercise, it's really beautiful and very, very powerful. Just sitting, closing your eyes, noticing your energy, the sensations in your body and the quality of your mind. And she's right, laughter does soften things. When you notice yourself getting into a pattern, just pay attention and then laugh about it. It really does shift the energy. And one of the big takeaways from Elizabeth's story that I think is so powerful is choosing to be a person that gets joy out of simply studying, learning, growing, and then sharing what you know to help others. That you don't have to hang a shingle and start a business with what you know, that it's of just as much value just to be in your life, generously sharing what you know, like she is. And I'm so grateful to her for stepping out of her comfort zone and agreeing to speak to us in this very public forum. She's a very private person, and it took a lot of courage for her to say yes and share her story in this way. And I hope that it inspires you to do the same. People want to hear what you have to say, and it is of value. Oh, I am so interested to hear what resonated with you from this conversation. So please leave a review or a post in the Facebook group or email me. Oh, it really nourished me, this teaching, and I hope it has for you as well.
I want to hear about your It Has to Be Me story. So head on over to ithastobeme.com/stories to share it in our free community. You can also join the conversations we're having about this episode and others. I'm Tess Masters. Join me next week and we'll dive inside another great story to help us go from dreaming to doing.